Good morning, students. In today's lecture, we are going to know about the general introduction of bryophyte. So what is meant by bryophyte? What are all the general characteristics of bryophyte? How the morphology look like? Then how the general reproduction present in the bryophyte. So let me share the slide. So coming to the general introduction, the name bryophytes came from two Greek words, that is bryon, that is one word, and phyton. So bryon means mass, a small flowerless green plant which lack true roots, growing in low carpets or rounded cushions in damp habitats and reproducing by means of spores released from the stalked capsule, and phyton means plant. So the bryophytes came from two Greek words, bryon and phyton, and they are simplest and primitive plants among the embryophytes. So embryophytes are the plants where the zygote directly forms an embryo. We call it as embryophytes. The study of embryophytes, we call it as embryology. And the bryophytes, this is the first group of plants to invert the land. It needs water for their fertilization, so that it is commonly called plant amphibians. They are very small and small herbaceous plants too. They are not found as a single individual. You cannot able to see a single individual plant, but in the form of group that grow closely packed together to form a cushion or mat-like structure over the rock on soil as epiphytes on the tree trunk and leaves of forest trees, and as a patch it can able to float in the water. Bryophytes is represented by 1237 genera. Under this genera we have reported 18,000 species. They flourish particularly well in moist places, especially in India. They are mostly confined to the eastern and northern Himalayan region, also reported in Nilgiri and other hills. These are some of the pictures, how the morphology look like. So as we discussed in the previous slide, it is not an individual plant as a cushion, as a mat. It forms a moss-like structure. So that's why bryon means small, flowerless, herbaceous plant. This is how the genera under bryophytic members look like. So continuation of the general introduction. So all bryophytes are haploid gametophytic generation. The starting point of male thallus as well as the female gametophyte, it is haploid having single set of chromosome. The gamete producing using haploid phase, producing the zygote from which the sporophyte arises. So the male gametophyte produces sperm cell. Female gametophyte, which is already having the egg cell, which receives the sperm cell from the male gametophyte. After the fertilization, zygote formation takes place. So here there is no resting phase after zygote formation. There is no reduction division like meiosis or mitosis. Directly it produces sporophytic generation where the sporophyte arises. So it is the dominant form in bryophyte. So the sporophytic generation after fertilization, that is the dominant form in bryophytes. The sporophytes are very short-lived and attached to the gametophytic thallus. So this is the picture. So after fertilization, this blue color, no, this is the female gametophyte. After fertilization in the venter canal cell where it is having the egg cell. So from that zygote, it forms the sporophytic generation. So for sporophytic generation, from the spore mother cell, it has to release the spores. So until then, it needs support and nutritional requirements from the gametophytic thallus. So the gametophytic generation is always short-lived till fertilization. So after fertilization, the sporophytic generation arises, no, that is long-lived. So the sporophyte is monosporangiate. Monosporangiate means it has only one sporangium. Mono means one, it has only one sporangium having the spore mother cell. After reduction division, the spore mother cell releases the haploid spores. And the sporophytic generation in thallus of Markinsia, Funaria, Anthoceras, which are the members of bryophytes, it is having different structure, but it has the bulbous foot structure with or without an unbranched stalk. The stalk, which bears the sporogenous mother cells, can be branched or unbranched, and the terminal sporangium, which bears the spore mother cell. Non-vascular plants that never form xylem tissue. So all the bryophytic members, they are non-vascular plants. They never form the conducting vessel, xylem tissue. They provide seed bed for the larger plants of the community because of the cushion-shaped structure. as a cushion mass of collection of the bryophytic plant. It provides the seed bed. So wherever the seed dispersal coming from other plants, it can able to hold the seed, and from that it acts as a bed for the germination of those seeds dispersed from the year. They capture and recycle nutrients that are washed with rainwater from the canopy. So because of the huge mat, it can able to capture the down drop and recycle the nutrients and keep the soil fertility. They bind the soil to keep it from eroding. So completely because of the rhizome structure, it completely hold the soil particle tightly. So thereby it can able to avoid the soil erosion also. This is the overall life cycle of bryophyte. So as I told, it has male gametophyte and female gametophyte. From the male gametophyte, it produces the male branches which bears the sex organ, that is the male sex organ. We call it as antheridium. It is a club-shaped structure surrounded by a sterile single jacket layer. Inside that, it has sporogenous, not sporogenous. It is antheridial mother cell. So after that maturation, it produces sperm cell. Whereas in the female gametophyte bears the female branch that produces a female sex organ called archegonium. It is a flask-shaped structure or vase-shaped structure. It has a neck canal cell and venter canal cell, that is the bulbous one. Inside that, it has haploid egg. What happened? As I told you in the previous slide in the general characteristic, it need water for fertilization. So through water current, the sperms from the antheridium male sex organ carry to the female sex organ. When the tip of the archegonium is covered by the sperm cell, it at the tip it has some cover cell. So the cover cell break, it disintegrate, and it produces some mucilaginous secretion that enables to intake the sperm cell, and only one sperm cell fuses with the egg and it forms a zygote. The process we call it as fertilization. So after fertilization, there is no reduction division. There is no resting phase in the zygote. Directly the zygote develop into a sporophytic generation. This is the sporophyte, and the stalk, the bulbous foot, which is embedded inside the female gametophytic branch, and this is the stalk, and this is the capsule, otherwise you can call it a sporangium, and this is the operculum, a covering, a protective cover until the spore mother cell mature. So after the spore mother cell mature, nothing but the sporogenous mother cell, what happened? The outer cap breaks and the sporogenous mother cell disperse the haploid spores after reduction division to the atmosphere. The spores are all haploid. So it can be a male gametophyte or it can be a female gametophyte. As I discussed in the previous slide, the gametophytic phase is very short-lived and the sporophytic phase is the long-lived. And the sporophyte, until it disperses the spore, it will be keep on attaching with the female gametophytic thallus for a support as well as for the nutritional requirement. And coming to the general characteristics, so the life cycle of bryophytes is differentiated into gametophytic generation as well as the sporophytic generation. So there is an alternation of generation between haploid and diploid phase. So gametophytic phase is predominant and sporophytic phase is very short-lived and completely dependent on the gametophyte for support and nutrition. The gametophytic plant body is either thalloid or differentiated into erect axis. If you take the members of the bryophytic plant, it is not like all the plant members reported under bryophyte or thalloid structure. Some may differentiated to form a erect stem-like structure and lateral appendages like leaves. This is the immediate evaluation from algae. So you have to use a word like stem, like leaves. So like stem, we call it as erect axis. Like leaves, we call it as lateral appendages. Roots are completely absent. So instead of roots, you have to use the word rhizoids. Complete root structure is absent. So the rhizoids perform the function of anchoring the entire thallus to the soil as well as the absorption of the nutrition. So rhizoids can be unicellular, unbranched or multicellular branch based on the complexity of the thalloid structure of the bryophytic plant. As I discussed, they never form any xylem tissue, a special lignin containing water conducting tissue that takes the position of xylem. So from that only the water is conducting through the special lignin containing water. And the plant body is made up of parenchymatous cells only. It is simple parenchymatous cell, the entire members of bryophytic plant. It is made up of parenchyma cell. They reproduces only by vegetative mode as well as by sexual mode. So asexual mode of reproduction is completely absent. So sexual method is by the sex organ antheridium, male sex organ, female sex organ archegonium, which bears the egg cell. Vegetative reproduction based on the members, based on the habit and habitat. There are some vegetative propagules a plant can able to produce like tubercle, gemma cup, like that. So through that, it can able to run the vegetative kind of reproduction. So these are the structure of vegetative propagules: gemma cup, tubers, protonema. Protonema, it can be secondary protonema or primary protonema, cladia. So these are some of the specialized propagules produced by the member of bryophytes to initiate the vegetative reproduction. So sexual reproduction is only by oogamous type. Oogamous means oogamy. Female reproductive system, archegonium, it does not move here and there. It will be stocked in the female gametophytic branch and it is much bigger in size compared to the male gametophyte. Okay, and sex organs are unisexual. Coming to the sexual reproduction, so the male sex organ, we call it as antheridia. This is the structure of antheridia. It is club-shaped, surrounded by single sterile jacket layer. So the jacket layer is a protective layer which gives protection to the androcyte mother cell till it matures to produce a sperm cell. And it has the basal stalk and sterile jacket layer. Inside it, there is a androgonial mother cell. After maturation, the jacket layer breaks and it releases the sperm cells out. The female sex organ, we call it as archegonium. It is a flash-shaped structure. This is the neck canal cell and venter canal cell. That is the bulbous structure at the base, which bears a viable egg. Okay. And here, if you see the sperm cells are motile and biflagellate. Both the flagella are whiplash in type. It need water current to carry the sperm cell for fertilization. So this picture will be more clear here. So this is the antheridium. Okay, this is the breaking of antheridium to release a sperm cell, and these are paraphyses. Paraphyses means nothing but sterile cell, which cannot able to itself differentiate to form an antheridium. And this is the flash-shaped archegonium. This is the neck canal cell, pentacanal cell, which bears the egg. This is how the bryophytic member sex organs look like. And coming to the special kind of reproduction here. So this is the neck region of the archegonium. When the sperm come, what happens? The archegonium covers by the lid cell or cover cell. So the lid cell disintegrate and produces some mucilaginous secretion. With that, it takes inside the sperm cell for fertilization. So these are the sperm cells having two whiplash type of flagella. Though it has the flagella for motility, it need water to travel to meet the egg cell present in the archegonium. Okay, so this is the structure. So after fertilization, what happened? This is the zygote formation takes place in the archegonium. That is the basal swollen portion where we call it as venter cell. After zygote, there is no reduction, division, or resting phase. Directly, it produces the sporophytic generation. This is how the sporophyte look like. This is a stalk. Base will be embedded inside the female gametophytic thallus, and this is the cap. If you take a section of it, this is the spore mother cell bearing the spore. So after maturation, what happened? The outer cover releases the spores. It breaks and releases the spores. So after the spore germination, spore produces a protonema-like structure. Protonema is nothing but a small outgrowth. The initial formation of small branch, we call it as primary protonema. From the primary protonema, if it branches, we call it as secondary protonema structure. Okay, so this is the overall life cycle. So male and female gametophyte are there. So male gametophyte produces antheridial head. Female gametophyte similarly having the archegonial head. So antheridial head, it produces antheridium, which releases the sperm cell. And the archegonial head, which is having the archegonium, it is having the egg cell. Then it goes for the process of fertilization. After that, zygote formation takes place in the female gametophyte. So from the zygote formation, there is no resting phase as well as no reduction division. Directly, the zygote emerges out in the form of sporophyte, stalk cell, seta, and calyptra. Once the sporogenous mother cell mature, the outer cover releases the spores, and the spores forms the young sporophyte, young gametophytic generation. After germination of the spore, it can be male and female gametophyte. So hope you have some introductory discussion about the bryophyte. Thank you.